Hi, everybody. So I am here. This is really, really exciting. I'm here with my sister, and we are going to be talking about her new book, which is really a great her first published book. And I wanted to first, really quick, I'm wearing red lipstick because today is the red nose day. But I didn't want to do the interview wearing a red nose because that would be ridiculous. But today is the day where people are trying to give money to help with homelessness and other causes that help fight against poverty. And I did a video that was posted this morning with my 5 best Krusty the Clown episodes of The Simpsons wearing my red nose. And so check that out. And if you can donate in some way, whether it's your time or your donating clothes or whatever to help with, I think it could be a really great thing for for this important cause. So Megan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, and that sounds like a great cause. I'm not familiar with that, but I'm glad you're doing that. I'm Megan Wagner Lloyd, and I am a writer of children's books. I live near Washington, D.C., and
Yeah. Yeah, and she is a homemaker, and also writer, and we're gonna have so much fun. She's 2 years younger than me, so we were kind of attached to the hip for our childhood, and we had sort of
lots of roller.
yeah, we had an unusual experience, I think, because even though she was 2 years younger, she graduated from high school early, and we went to college together. And we just did a lot of things that maybe other siblings who are 2 years apart don't do together, I think. So, okay, so I'm really excited to talk about the book. If we have any viewers, I have the Q&A open. So if you want to ask any questions for Megan or myself or about the book or whatever, then feel free to ask questions. And let's get started. So I wanted to first ask for you to tell us about your journey as a writer, and was it something you always wanted to do? And
Okay. Yeah, I always, from the time I can remember, I always wanted to be a writer. I was a bookworm. I was always writing when I was a kid. I just can't remember a time when I didn't want to be a writer. So, I didn't know when it was going to happen in my life. For a long time, I thought I would like do it more once my kids were older, but I decided I just didn't want to wait. Just couldn't stop writing. So I've just never stopped writing since the time I was a kid.
yeah, when she was little, she used to have these little notebooks, because we were both big journal writers, and you would have these little notebooks where you write poems and different things about everything that was going on. I remember that.
Yeah, I did that a lot.
They were pretty good. So, okay, so how did can you kind of go through the process of how you ended up writing a children's book? I know you met your agent. Could you kind of walk through that sort of process, the timeline?
Well, I can't even remember when I decided I wanted to write children's books. But I always wanted to write. I never really,
Oh, really?
yeah, I never really considered doing adult books. I don't know why. Maybe because when I decided when I was a kid, and I like kids books.
Because I thought your big dream was
So,
to become YA novelist. I thought that was sort of what you were hoping for.
well, young adult books are considered part of the kids book world. So
Oh, okay.
my first novel I tried to write was a novel for like 8 to 12-year-olds. I've written some young adult novels, and these are all unpublished practice ones. So I went through different, but I did consider myself more of a novelist, even as I was trying out picture books. But I started to get some good feedback on my picture books, and eventually I started going more in that direction, although I still do hope to publish novels as well. So I started, writing more seriously as an adult in like 2003, and then got the offer for Finding Wild in 2014 process. But I'm really happy.
So when did you meet your agent?
Oh, I don't even know what year I met her. I mean, I met her at a conference, but I mean, I don't even know if I spoke to her, but I saw her speak at a conference in like maybe 2011.
Okay.
But I didn't like know her. And then in 2013, I started sending her some work, and was getting good feedback. And she's like, keep sending me stuff. And that went on for like 9 months or something. And then in 2014, she offered to represent me. And then it was about 6 months after that we sold Finding Wild. So that was a big step in the journey, was getting an agent who I
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
Things have definitely sped up since then. So.
Okay. Yeah. So you were already presenting her with the picture books and different things like that. You had already been doing that for some time then, by the time you met her. You'd already been
trying to get an
you'd been trying to do picture books, children's books for some time before you met her.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the whole time that I was working on novels, I was also trying out picture books.
Okay.
But I'm not sure what year, but maybe in like in 10 or something, I started to focus a little bit more on picture books.
Okay.
Because I felt like I was getting a lot of good feedback on those. Ways to go with my abilities writing novels. So.
Okay. That's cool. I didn't know that. I didn't know it was so early on. Okay. So what inspired you to write Finding Wild? I mean, when I think about you growing up, I don't think of you as being a super outdoorsy kid. Actually, maybe I just remember it wrong, but to me, you were more reading inside a lot. And I don't know. So I'm curious, kind of what inspired you to write the book.
So I have, really, really great memories as a kid of the outdoors. I wasn't super adventurous. I would say I was really cautious, but like, our mom was really into gardening. So I loved being out with the flowers, looking for fairies in the flowers, just being in the garden. I I really liked, I know you weren't as big a fan, but I really liked going hiking with dad, camping, that stuff. And then when we lived in Maryland, I loved the creek in our backyard. There was a blue heron that would come to it. I would watch from my window, go walking on the Appalachian Trail. So I always felt really connected to nature, not necessarily like someone who's really into um, extreme nature sports in the outdoors or things like that. But I always felt really just like I loved the peace of nature and being outside. And so, and then having my own kids, just wanting them to feel that too. I thought a lot about, how I wanted to play outside, not be on screens all the time, stuff like that. So,
Yeah, do you feel like that's something that's gotten kind of lost, the idea of sort of finding wild? Do you feel like that's something that's kind of need to be reminded to kids?
I mean, I think there definitely is like overscheduling, and, with iPads and stuff, it's like so much easier to use screens all the time, and kids are really busy. There's a lot more, it can be harder to get kids to want to play outdoors because there's so many fun indoor options, and kids aren't allowed to go places by themselves as much, for good and bad reasons. But so, I mean, I had thought about all this stuff a lot, but I can't say when I sat down to write Finding Wild that I was actually thinking about any of that specifically. I just
Yeah.
was exploring the idea of like, what is the wild?
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of wrote this random poem almost for my rough draft. So it was, but I'm sure all that stuff was affecting it, but I didn't write it like thinking of a message or anything. It was more just something that came from my own love of nature. And so it more came from that, like a wanting to celebrate it more than like lesson or wanting to, have kids go outside, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that we do have sort of overscheduled. We do have, or like if they experience nature, it's more through like a zoo or something like that, which isn't really the same as what you're talking about in the book, as sort of finding these little pockets of wild, even in a big city, kind of like you're saying in the story. And I liked that.
And that's one thing I like with kids, that you don't necessarily have to go on like a week-long camping trip or something. Like you can just like go for a walk and they'll be transfixed by all these little details.
Yeah.
Not necessarily every kid, but I feel like most kids have kind of an innate connection. And it's more like we're like rushing them along, like, especially when they're really little, it's like, oh, don't stop and look at another bug, but they're naturally interested.
Yeah, it reminds me of, even though this isn't about kids, but I remember years and years and years ago, Jamie Oliver on Food Network, he did this thing where he like got all of this stuff for a meal off of like stuff from the city. Like he found like all of this like herbs and weird stuff like from like I don't know, like it was pretty crazy. There's like he's at like a freeway overpass practically,
cool.
like getting like dandelion greens and stuff like that. And I don't know, I just think like it is a good example that like you can find sort of nature in the like craziest places, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
So. Cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, so my next question was, how did you feel when you found out it was getting published, and what has the process of publishing been like for you?
I mean, it was like incredibly exciting. I was so happy. Yeah, it's a dream come true. And publishing has gone really well so far. I really enjoy working with my editor for the book, and one of the big highlights has been having Abigail Halpin as an illustrator.
Yeah,
to work with, because it's just so phenomenal. So that it really has gone better than I could have imagined, and I'm just really happy with how it's all gone.
How long was the process between you found out and it getting published? How long does that take?
It was really fast for a picture book. A lot of times it can be up to like 3 years because, the illustrator can have other things on their plate already. So I was really lucky. I found out in November of 2014, and then it came out May 10th of this year. So it was just about a year and a half.
So that is pretty fast.
Yeah, so I was really, really happy with that. And yeah, cool. It was great to work on. It was doing edits and stuff with my editor really well.
Okay, so I was going to ask you next about the illustrations. Like, what was that like, kind of seeing your words illustrated, and did you have any involvement at all with her? I did feel like the one girl in the story looks a little bit like one of your girls. Is that just by chance, or did you have any?
Yeah, just by. No, just by chance. So I really like respecting the illustrator's space and not trying to art direct the book
Hmm.
since I'm not an artist. So, I mean, I didn't have any notes at all about how to illustrate it. I just had the text. And then sometimes you don't even know who your illustrator will be for a long time, you know, after you've sold the book. But in this case, we were matched really early on. So I knew she was going to be the illustrator. And I, you know, looked at her website and her portfolio, and I just felt so confident that it was going to turn out great. So the only involvement I had is just, you know, my editor passed on all the sketches, you know, like the first draft sketches of the book. And I saw those and I was like really excited, just like black and white sketches. But I just, you know, it wasn't how I would have imagined doing it, but it was better than I could have
Yeah.
imagined. And then, you know, I got to see the cover and the final art um, before it was released. So yeah, I was just like thrilled with how it went. I'm sure if I'd had some like major issue when they showed me like the sketches, I could have something, but I felt really great about it.
Yeah, one of our viewers, just Abby, just asked about this. Could you have had control over it if you wanted to, or is it really kind of out of your control?
It's really, you know, out of your control. And I think that would be pretty bad form, you know, because there's
Yeah.
an art director working on the book and there's the editor who is, you know, um, working with both the artist and the writer. So, you know, for an author to go in there and try to take control, it's just really not their role. And,
Hmm.
you know, I don't know that they would want to work with you again if you're acting like that.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm sure if you had like a major concern, you know, if you felt like um, something was unintentionally sending a really bad message or something, you know, you could bring it up and there could be a conversation. But
Hmm.
um,
That's cool. Yeah, you guys can kind of see for just a second, like it's beautiful. The illustrations are really, really pretty. They have sort of a watercolor feel to them that I think is really nice. And I also, I mean, it sounds maybe weird, but I also like the typeface, the font. I
oh,
think it has sort of a whimsical
yeah,
quality
well,
to it.
I think she hand lettered that and that's
Oh,
what she,
really?
yeah,
See, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I shouldn't say one, no, for sure, but I'm pretty sure. Or, you know, I think it, even if it wasn't hand lettered, even if she did it on computer, I think it's her design part of the art. So,
yeah, it's really pretty. Have you talked to her? Have you had conversation with her? Or
yeah, I waited until the book was finished and then I emailed her to let her know how much I liked it. And then I just wanted to be sure to give her her space. And then
sure,
we've exchanged some emails. Really great. So that's been
that's
nice.
awesome. Okay, so my next question is, what would you like Finding Wild to teach to kids? What would you hope they take away from it? We talked a little bit about it, but
Yeah, yeah. Um, so like I was saying, you know, I don't view it so much like a very super didactic or a teaching um, book, but I hope that it inspires them to want to go outside and that, you know, a lot of kids who are the age who are reading it will be read to them by an adult, and I hope that that leads to, you know, where can we go to find wild? You know, let's go on a walk, let's go to the park, let's that it just leads to enthusiasm about spending
yeah.
time outside.
And I think that it's like important for everybody to find their own wild. Like for me, I honestly like seeing a beautiful view doesn't really speak to me that much. You know, like it's just kind of like, oh, it's higher up. It's just it's fine. I don't hate it. But like for me when I'm in the water and I see and I just feel the water and I just see the water, especially when it's like glass, it's really beautiful. To me, that speaks to me. But other people
Yeah.
are like, that's disgusting. Or if I if I see the ocean and even just hear the ocean, like it's a spiritual experience for me when I see the ocean. And there's just something about water, and maybe that sounds cheesy, but there's something about water that's very spiritual to me, and I just love it. And so I think that that's kind of important too, is to try a bunch of different things. Like maybe you're somebody who really loves the snow. Maybe you're somebody who hates the snow. Like to just try a bunch of different things and have your kids try a bunch of different things. And also I think like I mean, I'm not a mom, so what do I know? But it seems like to me that you have to kind of have a certain degree of tolerance when it comes to exposing your kids to these sort of things. Because I just remember our Aunt Chris one time telling me that she had taken her kids when they were little to go blueberry picking, and it had been the worst like day of her life. Like they were awful and screaming and just awful and annoying. And the next year somehow it got brought up, like blueberry picking, and David, he was very little, was like, oh, that was so much fun, we need to do that again. And so I thought about that I don't know, you just never know with kids.
Yeah. And I totally agree with what you're saying. In fact, I just had finished writing a blog post for a guest post on someone's blog about that subject, about like helping kids find their own, wild that they like. Just like you were saying about me, you didn't view me as like this super outdoorsy kid, and yet I felt super connected to nature in different ways. So I think just because a kid isn't like some kids don't really like getting dirty, or some kids don't want to play outside like all day. Like other kids could just like play all day outside, and other ones are like, I want to go outside. So I think that's really important to recognize that just because you're not like, always doing these like wilderness treks and stuff, like, or doing these extreme outdoors things, doesn't mean that you can't find the things that you like with nature, and for kids and adults.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so my next question is, how do you balance writing with being a wife and a mother and homemaker and your other responsibilities that you have?
Well, I don't really consider myself a homemaker because I just like neglect anything with my house. But I am a mom. I just think you just have to do your best. There's so many things about balance out there, and about how to have it all and stuff, but like, you know, everyone's so different, the things that make them happy, and how it's gonna work for them. I mean, I just try my best, and like sometimes I have to put more attention. Sometimes things in my personal life or my kids need more attention, and sometimes I can devote more to my writing. So I think you just have to be flexible. Try not to get like discouraged when it feels like you're not going anywhere because you don't have enough time for your writing. Because it goes in waves, and other times you can have more time, and just do the best you can, because it's a marathon. For people who want to get published, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and you just have to keep trying and keep going.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think though it's sort of a myth of the balanced life. It's impossible, like, because just certain times like are going to be super intense on one thing and less intense on another, and so no matter what kind of life you live, and so, but I think that's something that particularly moms feel a lot of guilt over. Is It seems like to me, from my observations, is that balance and trying to make sure your kids are taken care of, but your life goals are also met, and also you have a functional home life of some kind. And so I was just curious.
Yeah,
Kind of.
no, I agree. I think there is a lot of guilt. But I think everyone's life is hard in different ways, and it's really hard to give advice that
Yeah.
works for everyone. you
Well, I
know.
think you're saying too is like just don't compare yourself to other moms because they're good at things that are different than you, and they're probably bad at things that are different than you as well.
Yeah, and I mean there is a lot of like discussion within like writing community about or in the arts community about, whether having kids kind of holds you back from being able to achieve the things you do. And I just think, well, if you have the kids already, they're there. You gotta take care and do your best. And if, it's a personal decision whether and when you want
Sure.
to. But I think, kids are really hard, but they also can be a source of inspiration. And so
Yeah,
looking for struggle and
that's really cool.
I don't think it should stop anyone from it might be harder and a longer road, but like I think you can do it.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. So my last question is just what project what does the future hold for you? And if you can give me that link to your to that blog, I'll post that in the description section because that sounds really good.
That
But
one, sorry,
oh,
it's
it's
not
not
going
up
to
yet.
be in June, but
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah, well, I'll post on my social media when it gets published. Uh,
okay.
but yeah, what projects are coming up in the future for you, or what does the future hold for you that you can talk? I guess that you can talk about.
So I have another book coming out from Knopf/Random House. Also illustrated by Abigail Halpin. So that's really exciting. That's going to come out the fall of 2017. So a little bit of a wait. And it's called Fort Building Time. It's celebrating building forts in the different seasons. So it's not a sequel to Finding Wild, but it kind of works as a companion book. It's the same author illustrator team, and it's very much outdoors and seasonal. So I hope people who like Finding Wild will connect with that one as well.
That's
And
really
then,
cool.
yeah, I'm excited. And then in spring of 2018, I have a picture book coming out um, to be illustrated by Phoebe Wall, who is an awesome artist that I'm really excited to work with. It's Simon and Schuster bought it, and it's called Paper Mice. It's about these two mice created out of paper, and they wake up in the night in this house and explore, and it's really a friendship story about them meeting.
Yeah,
So
awesome. That's
ones
so
I've
great.
bought, and hopefully lots more, and hopefully some novels in the mix too. So yeah, I'm really
That's
excited.
so great. Well, congratulations. I'm really proud of you for what you've
Thank you.
accomplished. And I'm going to have a link in the description section to purchase the book. And I'm also doing on my Facebook page, I'm doing a giveaway of Finding Wild. So I'll put a link down to that giveaway if you want to enter. There you can enter multiple times every day. So it's a chance to win the book. And it's definitely one that I think you'll want to pick up and one you'll want to give away as gifts for the kids in your life, and I just think it's very, very adorable. So, yeah. So thanks so much for coming on and
Oh,
telling us a
thank
little
you
bit
so much.
about your
This was
process, and I really appreciate it. And
that was
sorry, go ahead.
it was really fun chatting about it.
Well, good. All right. Well, like I said, all that information will be down below. If people want to reach you, like, do you have any social media at all? That you
Yeah, I can give that to you. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Goodreads, all that stuff, and I have a website. So
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll have all of that in the description section if you want to check out and follow Megan on social media. And yeah, so thanks so much. And I hope you all have a really good Memorial Day weekend.
thanks, Haley.
Bye.
Bye.